everyone, this is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is Dr. Margaret Rutherford. Dr. Margaret is a clinical psychologist. She specializes in anxiety and depression, and she works in the United States, has a practice there for about 20 years, and also has a great blog where she talks about midlife, relationships, reinvention, and it's great to have you here, Dr. Margaret. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. We have a lot of women in our community who are dealing with something I'd like your advice on. That is, through maybe circumstance or decision of their own, they are single in their 60s, and maybe their husbands died. You know, they're by themselves, not by choice, but they don't want to get married again. They don't want to be even in a relationship, but they find themselves in this world of couples, where every time they go somewhere by themselves, there's sort of this pity for them that, oh my goodness, you're here alone. And I just wondered if you could give your thoughts and advice on that phenomenon, you know, why that is the case and what women can do.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it is still the cultural stereotype, and I don't know about it in Europe, but certainly in the United States it is, and it is difficult. And for some reason, I think women begin thinking that, and sometimes it's true, that you have some agenda about being there, that perhaps you're out for their husband, or you're, which is, and so they do get ostracized sometimes, because women can be not very nice to other women, as we all know. So one woman comes to mind that I worked with several years ago that had the term acrimonious comes to mind. It had been a very, very
tough divorce.
Tough marriage, tough divorce, the whole thing. And she had never, I think she'd gotten divorced in her 20s or early 30s. And by the time I worked with her, she was in her late 60s. And as we worked together, but let me finish the story. She found herself withdrawing, and she'd make an effort, and she worked, and she'd always worked, and she would do things with work friends, but she felt like she was losing her sense of purpose or significance. And so, without a relationship, because so many people talked about their grandchildren or talked about where they were going on their vacations, and so what she and I worked very hard on was that some of that was her attitude. Some of it was about that she particularly had some difficulties with her daughter that were extremely unresolved. And so I think she carried that into some of her conversations with other people. I bring her up because I think sometimes it's not simply that you're single. I think that you're single and you're talking about what you don't have.
Yes. You feel that you somehow are lacking something, and you've got to, and I think that that's a really good distinction to make. I'm glad that you raised that, because we do have a lot of women who feel, although we talked about this, living in the past, are resentful of what other people have. And it's not so much wanting that husband that someone else has got, or wanting to be a couple. It's that lack, that sense of lacking something in your own life. So that's really useful to hear. But the thing about being a single in a couple's world is, you don't have the community of what a couple brings to you, friends that you get together for dinner, you meet, you've got to kind of find your own way, your own community. So what are some ways that you can sort of survive in that change your mindset?
But again, I think that is, what you can do is stop making such a distinction between women who have partners and women who don't. What I find is sometimes people say, oh, well, I got together all my widowed friends or all my single friends or whatever, and I hang out with them, rather than say, well, why don't you mix it up? Married people get bored with each other. I have a friend who's single, and we regularly invite her and she invites us for dinner, because
mixes it up.
It enlivens things. It's great. She brings a whole. So I think if you don't want to segment your life into,
Mhm.
here's my life trying to go into the partnered world, and here's my life trying to go into the single
Yes.
world. Do you remember when we all had children? Maybe it's not this way in Europe, and the women who had worked outside the home, we would all go to birthday parties, and the women who worked outside the home would be over in this room, and the women who stayed at home would be over in this room. And it would be like there's this huge divide
Yeah.
between the two.
Yeah.
And I think something like that happens when people get older and they're not partnered. They imagine that they don't belong in that other group, that somehow they don't have any commonalities, and that's simply not true.
Yeah.
And so I think the more you mix it up, the more you proactively mix it up, the more you say you invite a couple of other single people, but you also invite two or three couples, or you you create an environment where you're showing people, I'm very comfortable. Yes, does it make me occasionally more lonely that I have to go home by myself at night, or I am going home by myself? Yes. Um, and getting through, I've often thought that loneliness should be a diagnosis. I mean,
Yeah.
loneliness
Yeah.
is tough. Um,
But
and go ahead.
no, I think it's what you were saying earlier, that you kind of create this social isolation. You actually then start to withdraw and withdraw because you don't
Exactly.
feel like you fit into these, these cultural stereotypes. But there's plenty you can do. I mean, I would like to talk about meetup.com, which, I don't know whether that's as big in the States as it is over here in Europe, but there's a meetup for every interest. Forget about ages. If you're interested in, it's an interest group. If you're interested in, going to movies, or, going hiking, or if you have a specific culture, like you like India, or you're interested in travel to Spain, and people get together, and I belong to a couple of them. Or if you're an entrepreneur, you're starting a new business, you can, and they are great because they normally are made up of mixed ages and mixed genders, and people somehow, when you go around an interest focus, they care about your opinion, don't even look at how old you are. It's just like, oh my gosh, that's a really cool idea. And women over 60 bring so much, as a single person, to a conversation. We've lived, we've done stuff, and don't you agree that's kind of we should be proud of that and not think it's a shortcoming that we're not with someone or
I do,
alone?
and I love that website. No, I don't know anything about that, but that's really great. Yeah. I do want to make a distinction between the women who are alone and have never been very good at being alone, and the women who are alone and have been pretty good about being alone. And they're just, so I think in the first instance, this is a skill. I mean, to be alone is a skill.
That's a good point.
To know how to cook for one, to know how to enjoy things by yourself, as we were talking a little bit before, that is a skill set, and you can practice it just like you practice anything. You can listen to a piece of music and think about what it brought out for you, or you can, you have to practice sometimes if you don't know that skill. There are other people who have been very good at being alone, like the woman I was talking about previously. She had always been really good at being alone. She's just tired of it.
Well, there are things there's things you need with other people, because they bring things to the conversation too, and their life experience, their story.
Exactly. So I think that you can. I heard an NPR report one time about a lady, and she had this beautiful Southern drawl. She told stories on NPR, and she told a story about how she always used to take potato salad to potlucks, and everybody would rave about her potato salad. And then she said, I noticed one day, finally looking around, that everybody else had stopped by the grocery store and just gotten a celery tray. And she said, I spent hours on my potato salad, and why am I working so much harder? So she was making the point that you can get tired of what you do well. Just because you do it well doesn't mean you have to do it. And so I think that women who've been really good at traveling and setting up trips and all this stuff can say, I'm a little tired of doing this, but so how can I refresh my energy? What do I need to do to refresh my energy? Do I need to go to a day spa? Do I have the funds to go to something longer than that? What do I need? So somebody takes care of me. what do I need to do that? So I get renourished and get my energy back to do what I know how to do very well.
Yeah.
I just get a little fatigued.
Well, I think what you said is really great. I mean, being single has all kinds of opportunity for you to reinvent yourself, to really do exactly what you want with your life, and to not have to be conditional in your relationship. Like, you don't have to please anybody. You don't have to make potato salad anymore. You don't have to, you just have to look at I mean, even I talked to a divorce coach this week, and we were talking about this opportunity that comes from being by yourself, that, embrace it. Take the opportunity to love yourself. And that's the greatest gift in life, to have that self-awareness and maybe that spiritual connection to who you really are, and not feel this need to be in a relationship. You choose to mix with people that do things you love to do, but you don't have to please anyone else.
On the counter side of that, you're exactly right. However, there's a famous study that was done in Great Britain, I think, that showed that people living alone, their report of their own happiness or contentment went up exponentially if they had seen one person or two people or three people. Yeah. That there was a direct correlation between the number of contact. Now, it could be the grocery store clerk.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out conversation with your best friend. It can be, I connected with someone. We laughed together. We talked about current events together. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be intimate contact. It's just contact.
Yeah. Well, social interaction is super important. And I didn't mean to indicate that you shouldn't mix with people. It's just that you don't have to be in a couple to do that.
No,
you just have to, like you said, treasure every exchange. I mean, I live in a place right now where everyone speaks German except for me. I mean, I know a little German, but I've decided, a little while ago that I would just make the best of every single, connection, like the postman or the woman who does my groceries. And I heard she has a name tag, so I've learned her name. And I say, I go in with a few words I've learned I can say, and she laughs. And it's just what you make of it. You can either say, oh, I don't fit, or I'm by myself and I'm lonely. Or you can say, oh, whatever, I'm going to go for it. And, try to make those connections that you talked about. It's really important.
I remember after I got divorced, I thought, okay, I've got to learn, because I didn't ever think I'd get married again. And I thought, I've got to learn how to be by myself. And I was in my 30s. Mm-hmm. And I went to my favorite restaurant, which was a very dark Italian place. And I ordered my favorite thing, which was fettuccine Alfredo. And it came, and I was doing so well. I had my book, and I was like, okay, I'm great. I'm fine. I'm loving the food. I'm loving the atmosphere. I'm back in a place where... And so I took the Parmesan cheese and did like this all over the pasta. And then I took a big bite of it, and the container was sugar, not Parmesan cheese. And I started sobbing. Thinking, I can't do anything by myself. I
can't even eat spaghetti by myself.
I can't eat fettuccine by myself. And I was so embarrassed. I tried to scrape the sugar.
Goodness. Oh.
And I didn't have anybody to laugh with about it.
That's important.
And so I remember that so well. And I remember going home and thinking, wow, this is going to be hard. And so it is hard. But you can grow skills to learn how to handle it. And then when you get lonely, you can reach out if you haven't withdrawn.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, we've got communities now online too. I mean, social media is great for connecting. And like you say, I mean, you're not getting the intimacy of a touch, and that's important too. You have to ask for hugs. Like anyone that will give you a hug, that's a good thing. But you have to just use everything you've got technology wise to just make connections with people and, learn how to eat, what the difference between Parmesan and sugar. Easy mistake though. Easy mistake. Oh, you're great, Margaret. Thank you so much for your time. It's been great advice. And I know a lot of single women are going to have had some ideas from what we've talked about. So thank you again for the time.